தமிழ் எழுதுறது, தமிழ் படிக்கிறது வந்து ரொம்ப முக்கியம். ஏன்னாக்கா, அதுல வந்து தமிழோட கலாச்சாரம் இருக்கு. ஔவையார், the great poet ஔவையார், for example, அறம் செய்ய விரும்பு, ஆலயம் தொழுவது சாலவும் நன்று. So all of these gems are in the literature. And there was this woman who was making karapati, and then every day she would make these little cubes and go to the market and sell. And that's how she was surviving. She was an elderly woman, and literally every 2 minutes, ஒரு டீ வச்சு தரவா, பசிக்குதா, ஏதாவது தரட்டுமா, சாப்பிடுறீங்களா? And it was just, I'm actually tearing up. It was just so emotional, actually.
Hello, this is Srinivasa Ramanujam from The Hindu, and today we have a very special person on the show. We have an American documentary filmmaker called Brian Linebaugh, who is right now taken a very interesting documentary on Tamils and Tamil culture. Hi, Brian.
வணக்கம்.
Oh, you know Tamil?
தெரியுமே.
Right. Do you want to converse in Tamil, or do you want to do the rest of the interview in English?
முடிஞ்ச அளவுக்கு நான் தமிழ் பேசுவேனே.
Oh, lovely, Sama. Brian, you're from the US, and you were born and you grew up in California in the US. At what stage did you hear your first Tamil word or phrase?
Right. So for me, my journey, I'm going to switch to English because my mother tongue, I'm more comfortable. But for me, my journey into Tamil studies actually started back in high school. நான் ஹை ஸ்கூலில் படிக்கும்போது அங்கே நிறைய தமிழ் ஸ்டூடெண்ட்ஸ் இருந்தாங்க என்னோட கிளாஸில், இது அமெரிக்காவில். அவங்களுக்குள்ளேயே தமிழ் பேசுவாங்கல்ல, அவங்க பேசுறது கேட்ட உடனேயே எனக்கு ஏதோ என்னமோ ஒரு அட்ராக்ஷன் வந்தது. Like some people might take to guitar, some people might take to piano, or sports. They'll see some amazing soccer, football play, and they say, "Oh, I want to do that." எனக்கு வந்து அந்த தமிழ் கேட்டோன்னே I want to do that. அது நான் படிக்கணும், அந்த மொழி நான் கற்றுக்கணுங்கிறது எனக்கு அந்த இன்ட்ரெஸ்ட் வந்தது அப்போவே. அப்போலேருந்து முடிஞ்ச அளவுக்கு ஃப்ரெண்ட்ஸ் கிட்டேருந்து கொஞ்சம் கற்றுக்கிட்டு 4-5 புஸ்தகம் வாங்கி அந்த புக்ஸில் வந்துட்டு எவ்வளோ கற்றுக்க முடியும், பேச கற்றுக்க முடியுமா? இல்லை. It became very clear. You can learn things like colors, கருப்பு, வெள்ளை, மஞ்சள், சிவப்பு, இந்த மாதிரி வார்த்தை, திங்கள், செவ்வாய், புதன். You improve your vocabulary from books. I mean, புஸ்தகம் படிக்கிறது முக்கியம் தான், இல்லைன்னு சொல்லலை. But the spoken language, you need immersion. You have to be in interacting with people in social situations. So then at that point, okay, if I want to learn the language, let's do something more radical. Let's go to India and see if I can learn the language. So at that point, I asked all my friends, if I was going to go to Tamil Nadu, where should I go to learn Tamil?
And they said Madurai.
Yes. Hands down, collectively, everybody said, you must go to Madurai to learn Tamil. It would be the best place for you to learn it, with the history of the Tamil Sangam, and just that regional dialect is a very sweet dialect to listen to. So at a very young age, packed my bags, alone, traveled 10,000 miles to Madurai, got down, and it was just a whole new world. I was just blown away by the experiences, the sounds, the smells, and the language, and the people. It was just an amazing experience. And I found a Tamil teacher.
Can you tell us more about that? Because I did learn that, I did understand that you did sit down with a Tamil teacher in Madurai and learned the language. How was that experience to, first learn verbally from him, from a native Tamil speaker, and get the nuances of the language?
Sure.
In one side of it. The other side of it, of course, explore the streets of Madurai, yes. Maybe bargain for some, vegetables, have yes. some, parota probably. How did all that go?
It's exactly the approach that I took. So in a traditional Guru Sishya method, I stayed at his house. Every morning we would have our what I would call our theoretical practice. So as if he was teaching a child. Because I came with very little knowledge. I had to start from the letters themselves. E, with the right rounding of the lips, for example. So that was very important, because in English, my mother tongue, the vowel duration doesn't matter, right? But in Tamil, very important. You can change the meaning by how long you hold the vowel, right? A good example is poi versus poi, right? Avan poi sonan, avan poi sonan. எவ்வளோ பெரிய வித்தியாசம், right? So that's a huge thing to try to get a handle on. So every morning with my teacher, I would have the practical training. But then every afternoon, that's where the real magic happened. So you go into the streets, try to mingle with people. I'm doing this all by myself, just kind of wandering around. So I'll go, kada kadaya, I'll poi, in the varipam yablanga. Or in the local dialect, na varipam yambuttunga. So முடிஞ்ச அளவுக்கு stretch பண்ணிட்டு நான் local dialect அவங்க பேசுற மாதிரியே கொஞ்சம் நான் முயற்சி பண்ணேன், ட்ரை பண்ணேன். Or ஆட்டோ ஸ்டாண்டுக்கு போய் மதுரை மீனாட்சி அம்மன் கோயிலுக்கு போனோம்னாக்கா எவ்வளோ கேட்பீங்க? நான் எங்கே போகல, அதே மாதிரி கடைக்கு போய் நான் எதுவுமே வாங்குறதில்ல. But just to repeat the language and get the language patterns and also to observe how people are speaking was critical to try to get to some level of competency. Yeah, இது வரைக்கும் வந்து எனக்கு திருப்தி இல்லை. கொஞ்சம் திக்கி பேசுறேன், ஒரு மாதிரி தடுமாறி கொஞ்சம் கஷ்டப்பட்டு நான் இன்னும் நான் பேசுறேன். It's just difficult, a very difficult language.
Right.
But I will not give up, and I'll continue my Tamil studies to try to get to a higher level. So this was all spoken Tamil. My main interest was the spoken language at that time with my teacher in Madurai. Returning from Madurai to US, I wanted to learn the formal language. The இங்க வந்து பேசுற தமிழ், பேச்சு தமிழ். இங்க வந்து செந்தமிழ். So I was actually lucky enough to join UC Berkeley and study with the great Tamil professor George Hart and do my master's degree in Tamil literature and language. And that was just a fascinating. So for people who don't know the Tamil language, you need to learn sort of two variants of it. You can't just learn one, meaning there's a spoken and a formal. They're quite different. It's like learning two languages. It's a huge undertaking. So as a simple example, if you want to say like, come here, inge varangal, okay, formal, right? Very, very formal. Inga vanga. So to a native speaker, not a big deal. And they kind of overlay, they're kind of similar. But for a foreigner to reproduce those two, it's almost like two different languages.
Yeah, I understand. Please,
Yeah.
And how was the experience? How was the reaction from the locals during this Madurai trips? Like today you have vlogs, you have a lot of people, of course, touring, Tamil Nadu and, speaking about its sights and sounds. But back when you were younger, much younger,
Yes.
and when you did all those streets,
Yes.
when you went to the streets in Madurai and started bargaining with, say maybe a takali seller, like a tomato seller.
Yes.
So how were their reactions?
Actually, it was funny. They really didn't care about the transaction. They were more curious about like, okay, who's this kid? Who's this white kid wandering the streets? And so, நீங்க எந்த ஊரு, எதுக்கு வந்திருக்கீங்க, என்ன பண்ணிட்டு இருக்கீங்க? So I think from both sides it was a good like cultural exchange of like I'm learning about them and their lifestyle and what they're trying to figure out me, why I'm there, trying to learn the language. And so it's just a really fantastic experience. Yeah, it's just the people of Madurai, moreover, Tamil people everywhere. Just the one of the cultural aspects that always comes through is hospitality. Virundombo. Always ஒரு டீ வச்சு கொடுக்கவா, சாப்பிட்றீங்களா, சாப்பிடாம போகக்கூடாது, நீ சாப்பிட்டே ஆகணும். So it's always that even you're a stranger, you'll be treated like family. And it's just truly amazing. We saw this in the making of the documentary film that I completed, Beyond Words, Stories from Tamil Landscapes. We interviewed over 200 people across 4 countries, India, Malaysia, Singapore, Sri Lanka. Everywhere, people were just so kind and took us in as their own, treated us like family. It's just truly amazing.
Interesting you go to the documentary because I was just getting there. At what point did you decide that this fascination with the language, with the culture, with the customs, the traditions, at what point did you think that, okay, this should translate to a visual documentary, and what were the challenges as you went along doing this documentary?
Sure. So for me, being a lover of the spoken language, I kind of wanted to create the resource that I never had. So நான் படிக்க ஆரம்பிக்கும் போது அவ்வளோ resources இல்லை. There was no internet. There was no YouTube. I couldn't look up Jaffna Tamil. யாழ்ப்பாணத்துல எப்படி பேசுறாங்க, எப்படி கதைக்கிறாங்க, எப்படி கதிக்கணும். I couldn't look those things up, right? So after all the experience I've gained, and every time I came to Tamil Nadu, I was just so fascinated by the regional dialects. I thought, why don't we create a single film that can highlight the dialects of the different regions? Just that would be a great resource in 2024. What is the state of Tamil dialects, basically across the world? That was the concept. So we began to shoot this film. We went by car, region to region, interviewing people, and then we went back and we looked over our footage, and we had a lot more than dialect. So what happens is the people we spoke to, their culture, the arts, the music, the dance, we got stories that were relating more to that than language. So then the purpose of the film sort of morphed into not just language, but let's highlight culture and arts. But the participants can tell these stories in the local dialect.
Super.
So you get both. You get that
get both.
marriage of the team.
Yeah,
You get the language and the culture, which are really sort of two sides of the same coin. And that's really the concept of the film.
Yeah, and you also showcased it at the recent Jaipur Film Festival. So how did that experience go, Brian?
It was amazing to see beyond words on the big screen. That was our world premiere, and we were very thrilled to have been nominated at the Jaipur International Film Festival. So right now we're in the film festival circuit. We anticipate being selected and screened at other film festivals globally. So stay tuned for news on that.
Yeah. So how can other people watch it at some point of time? Because that's a question you will be being asked, because the trailer is out and people are already curious to know what you filmed and how it's come out. So when and how can people watch it? What's the plan with respect to the film's release?
Sure. So for sure, everyone should check out the trailer. It's available now. It's on YouTube. Our handle is at Thamodharan B. So anyone goes there, they can see our trailer, and they can see we're also cutting short cinematic films about Tamil culture as well. We're going to be dropping those over the next several months as we finish the film festival circuit. But ideally, by the end of this year, what we're really aiming for, we're really trying to get a streaming deal for this documentary. We have really compelling footage I think people have not seen before and heard before with the dialects. And getting onto a streaming platform would really take this to the next level where everyone can enjoy it. And we can really uplift and show Tamil in a positive light.
Brian, I want to pick your brain on one part about the Tamil language itself. In the current context, we are in 2025, and while there is a lot of interest with respect to the Tamil language, நிறைய பேர் கத்துக்கணும்னு நினைக்கிறாங்க, நிறைய பேர் பேசணும், படிக்கணும்னு நினைக்கிறாங்க. There is also a large section of population in Chennai, in Tamil Nadu, throughout the world actually, Tamilians who might not be able to read or converse fluently in Tamil, or definitely not write also. How important do you think, as a person coming from the US, where obviously English is the spoken language for business, for conversation, for social interaction and all that, how important is it for a Tamilian to read and write Tamil?
தமிழ் எழுதுறது, தமிழ் படிக்கிறது வந்து ரொம்ப முக்கியம். ஏன்னாக்கா அதில் வந்து தமிழோட கலாச்சாரம் இருக்கு. You can take ஔவையார், the great poet ஔவையார், for example. அறம் செய்ய விரும்பு, right? ஆலயம் தொழுவது சாலவும் நன்று. So all of these gems are in the literature. And so when you learn to read the script, you can then dive into the books and you can get and see all the ethics that the poets over the ages have highlighted. And so from that standpoint, it's very, very important to I think, read and write Tamil.
So according to you, what aspects of Tamil culture and tradition, because I know you have, toward Tamil Nadu, for this particular documentary, you also, featured some of the Pongal traditions and customs in the documentary. Now, what aspects of Tamil culture do you think should be, preserved for posterity in that sense?
I would say, I'll go back to Virundombal. It's because we experienced it firsthand when we were doing this documentary. I'm thinking now back to the Congo region. We went to the Congo region to interview people, and we're driving through the streets. We went to this really narrow road in some remote village, and we got down. We saw some people in the distance, and we walked over to the homes, and there was this woman who was making these small cubes out of palm sugar. Karupatti. She was making karupatti, and then every day she would make these little cubes and go to the market and sell. And that's how she was surviving. She was working hard to make ends meet. She was an elderly woman, and we asked her, "Hey, can we, உங்க கூட கொஞ்சம் பேசலாமா? நாங்க வந்து ஒரு டாக்குமெண்ட்ரி பண்றோம். தமிழ் கலாச்சாரத்தை பத்தி, தமிழ் பண்பாட்டை பத்தி கொஞ்சம் கொஞ்சம் பேசலாமா? சரி நான் கொஞ்சம் பிஸியா இருக்கேன். நான் பண்ணிட்டே இருப்பேன். நான் வேலை பார்க்கும்போது நீங்க கேட்டுக்கங்க. So we did that during so we said fine. She continued to work while we started interviewing her and asking her questions. And literally every 2 minutes, ஒரு டீ வச்சு தரவா? பசிக்குதா? ஏதாவது தரட்டுமா? சாப்பிடுறீங்களா? So throughout the whole interview, every day she was so concerned. Here's a woman who was like really struggling to make ends meet, and she just embraced us like family, like her own child, and just like wanting to feed us, like literally wanted to utafy us. And it was just, I'm actually tearing up. It was just so emotional, actually.
Speaking of Tamil culture, Brian, cinema is also a very popular medium here, right? So Tamil cinema is huge in that sense. It's now a global, phenomenon in that sense, with stars, directors, music directors going across the globe and being, known across the globe in that sense. I'll be failing in my duty if I don't ask you if you do follow Tamil cinema, and if yes, who your favorite, actors and stars are.
Over the years, I followed Tamil cinema. I think the Bharati Raja older films are really important because he brought a sense of realism into the films. And then at the time, one of his assistants was Bhagiraj, K. Bhagiraj, and he later became into his own form and did some tremendous films. A lot of comedy, of course, from him. He's also just a huge talent with his music, his writing abilities, and his dialogues also were very realistic. So this aspect of realism coming from the tradition of Bharati Raja and then carried on with Bhagiraj, I think were really good. So those are important things. I enjoy Tamil cinema.
All right. Any punch dialogues that you've had because you've listened to and you've memorized, because a lot of us are fans of Rajinikanth and the whole punch dialogues that he says. Anything that you can recall for us?
I know he's done a lot, and I know they should probably be coming to me a little quicker. But the only one that kind of stands out is பதினாறு வயதினிலே அந்த நடிச்ச அந்த கேரக்டர் வந்து இது எப்படி இருக்கு, அது ஒன்று இருக்கு. அதுக்கு மேல எனக்கு அவ்வளோ ஞாபகம் சரியா வரல, but இருக்கு.
You work as a data engineer also in the US, right? What do your American friends tell when you tell them about this obsession about the Tamil language and culture?
I think it strikes them as odd. Like, why would someone spend so much time and effort learning something which to them maybe they don't quite see the value? But one of the good things in America is that there's an emphasis on being unique and being an individual at the same time, right? So you can sort of carve your own path. And in fact, because I studied Tamil, I was able to go into IT and become a data architect and database programmer. Because I think that learning the grammar and learning the words and how to put things together is very similar to programming, a programming language. Moreover, the Tamil language is they call it like a left branching language. Most of the computer languages are left branching. So these constructs that I come up with when learning Tamil apply directly to database programming, for example. Try to give you a tangible example. Chennaiil vandirukkum manidan. Manidan comes here. Everything that modifies Manidan's on left. That's what's meant by left branching language.
Right?
Chennaiil vandirukkum manidan. Or uyaranda manidan. Tall man who came from Chennai. English is the reverse. Right? You say the man who was tall came from Chennai.
Right.
It's completely inverted. It's a different way of thinking. If you look at programming languages, you have an object that's modified by everything to the left. So I actually think that my background in Tamil studies helped me to be successful in programming.
And it also helped you you married a Tamilian. How did that come about, Brian?
Yeah, actually, that's true. Because I knew Tamil, it was just a good fit when we met. We met in the U.S. and it's been a great fit. Been married for over 2 decades now, and she actually we co-directed and co-produced this film. And so she was the main interviewer because she's a native speaker, and so that was very important for that. And then so we went around together and made this film together.
And she's made this film Beyond the Words with you. Exactly what do you wish to convey through the film in a nutshell, Brian? And who do you think your target audience are for this particular film?
I think the target audience, I think, could I be so bold as to say the entire world? What I mean by that is, so the film is 100% Tamil, English subtitled, so everyone can read and follow along and enjoy. So I do think it should have global appeal, because what we expose and what we bring to life through the stories from all these Tamil landscapes are the regional arts.
Mm-hmm.
And so you're going to see things you've never seen before. From Thonde Mandalam in the north, you're going to see Terukuttu, right? All the way to the southern tip, you're going to see Tolpave Kuttu, the shadow puppetry. Then you go in the middle region, the Choranadu, Tanjavur, you're going to hear stories from agricultural people, from a puppeteer, Bombalatam. You're going to hear stories there. And also this is important because some of these arts, a lot of the artists expressed, Maranji Poedamo, the art form. அடுத்த generation, இன்னும் பண்ண போறாங்களா? ஒரு இது இருக்கு. There's a concern that it's fading. So I think having this broad perspective with many arts and capturing them in the current state of affairs as of today, sort of like a system of record, that should be elevated to the global level. We should see these wonderful arts have survived for thousands of years. I think everyone should watch this, and we all should encourage arts to prosper.
Super. Let's hope that happens. And speaking about the future, Brian, what plans do you have for the future? Because Tamil படிச்சிட்டேங்க, இப்போ எழுதவும் எழுதுறீங்க, and you've done a proper film on Tamil itself, and we are so happy to watch that and hear you speak in Tamil. What is the future for Brian, the documentary filmmaker, and Brian, the student of Tamil? There is no mastery over a language, right? You keep learning, you keep evolving. I might have picked a new word from you, you might have picked a new word from me. Right. So we are still learning, right? So on the aspect la pathana, what do you look at your future as for Brian, the student of Tamil? What is the future?
I like the way you frame that. I consider myself sort of the eternal student, always learning. Even though I've dedicated 2 decades, 20 years to attempting to learn to speak Tamil, இன்னும் சரியா வர மாட்டேங்குது.
சூப்பரா பேசுறீங்க.
நீங்க பாருங்களேன்.
சூப்பரா பேசுறீங்க. செல்ஃப் டவுட் தான் உங்களுக்கு. சூப்பரா பேசுறீங்க.
So I'll declare now and today, the next 20 years, I will continue this journey, and then at some point, I think I'll get to a place where ரொம்ப நல்லா ரொம்ப சரளமா ரொம்ப அழகா வந்துரும்னு நான் நம்புறேன். So I'll continue my Tamil studies, continue to go more into literature, and uncover the gems that I have not read about yet, because it's just a vast universe. There's just so much to read in Tamil. So for sure, I will continue to be a student of the language. And on the film standpoint, after Beyond Words, Stories from Tamil Landscapes, we'll see how it's received, and we'll see if we can get a streaming deal on this movie. And maybe we'll follow up with another film and some different aspects, to be determined. So stay tuned.
வாழ்த்துக்கள். I think you're doing a great job, and I hope the Beyond Words reaches its target audience. I hope you have a great future, and கண்டிப்பா next time when we meet நம்ம ஃபுல் உரையாடல் தமிழிலேயே இருக்கணும்.
சரி,
நன்றி.
Thank you. நீ நினைத்தால் ஆகாது என்ன, இந்த பூமி இந்த வானம் இடி மின்னலை தாங்குவதென்ன.